Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender adult care. Welcome to my channel. If you're new or a regular viewer here that has not yet subscribed, please make sure you do subscribe. That way you are helping me and everybody else not only find this content, but also have access to this content, especially during these very difficult times, and you helping support me, one of your allies. If you don't yet follow me on Instagram, link is below. Also, please go ahead and do follow me on Instagram. That's where I show up daily, and that's where you get additional tips, guidance, support from me, and it's just a great place for all of us to connect. So please do join my Instagram page as well. For today's video, I want to discuss how can you actually, and whether you should, trust your feelings when your feelings are telling you or communicating to you anything in regards to your gender identity. This is a question that is very, very common. This is a question that recently one of the actually Instagram viewers has reached out and asked me to make a video on. Specifically, how can I trust my feelings when I'm constantly so accustomed and so used to rejecting how I feel, especially when you had communicates to you one thing about your relationship to gender, and yet your feelings are telling you something else. How and whether you should at all trust your feelings. So let's talk about it because it's really important. I know that a lot of people do experience a lot of feelings in regard to their gender, do experience a lot of feelings in regards to gender dysphoria. Making sense of it all is incredibly confusing, especially if you don't have access to a therapist, especially if you don't have access to a gender therapist. Sorting through all of the things by yourself can be overwhelming to say the least. So I'm here to help guide you. I'm here to offer you some framework around it so that we can start actually paying attention to your feelings and understand what they're telling you. For starters, should you trust your feelings? And my immediate answer to you all as a psychologist is that no, you should not immediately trust your feelings. Our feelings can and are often misleading. How many times have you experienced or felt something that a week or even a month later maybe changed the way you feel about the same thing? In other words, feelings are fleeting. Feelings are not constant. This is why one day you may feel a particular set of emotions tied to your feelings, the next day you feel something else. It's because feelings are meant to be transient. They're not static. And this is why where it becomes really challenging. If feelings are transient, if they tend to fluctuate and change not only with time, but fluctuate and change based on the experiences we do have. How then should you trust feelings that come in flow of your experience in relationship to your gender identity? And the answer is you should be mindful not to immediately jump to trust feelings you feel instantaneously. The way to trust your feelings is to pay attention not so much to a feeling, but, and this is the most important thing, whether that feeling keeps coming back. So, in this way, what you're really paying attention to is not necessarily feeling, but a pattern that feeling is starting to present to you. And if there's a feeling that keeps recurring, keeps coming back to you in regards to gender, for example, let's say that every time you engage in intimacy and you are put in a position to be vulnerable because you are in a position where you are embodying your nudity, and as a result, you have to confront your physicality. If every time you get intimate, you feel severe discomfort or just discomfort in general, you feel uncomfortable, you feel um, uneasy when you look down at your genitals, for example. If another second time you're having an intimacy encounter, you feel the same thing. Another time you have intimacy encounter, you feel the same thing. If majority of the time you engage in intimacy, you feel the same level of discomfort for lesser or greater degree, that is the pattern. Now your feelings are communicating to you something. Sure, maybe one time when you're intimate, Maybe you feel a little bit insecure about yourself. Maybe you put on a little bit of weight, or maybe it's your first time with a partner, and complexes you have about yourself are coming to the forefront. That's normal, that's natural. But if you're feeling a discomfort that continues again and again and again, and it is also tied to some elements of gender, that is the pattern a feeling is trying to convey to you, right? Similarly, if every time you go out there and people gender you based you on sign gender and you feel incredible discomfort again and again and again, that is also a feeling you are experiencing in regards to your gender that is starting to form a pattern. That pattern is trying to tell you something. The difference here is feelings that are transient, that come and go. Like always say, cisgender people experience gender dysphoria too. People with severity of trauma, special sexual trauma, do experience gender dysphoria. People also oftentimes can confuse elements of body dysmorphia and gender dysphoria. There are a lot of things that can and do overlap. And there's a lot of things that we feel, and what we feel sometimes occurs very seldom, and it's situated within a particular context. And then there's things we feel constantly, again and again and again and again. This is one of the best way to start trusting your feelings when you feel something again and again and again, and it forms a pattern. Now, what happens for a lot of you is that you have spent many, many years not only mistrusting yourself, but you spent many years, I just did post about it on Instagram actually, gaslighting yourself, where you will tell yourself and convince yourself that what you are feeling is in fact untrue. And part of it is because you are trying to protect yourself. It's part of also denial, which is defense mechanism for our psyche to really protect ourselves. But when you spend years and years and years constantly negating what you feel, constantly telling yourself that what you feel is not real, and then using your mind to justify why what you feel is not real or come up with some explanation or excuses for it, you get now in a habit of constantly mistrusting how you feel. So when it comes now to a time when even if you are starting to pay attention and you notice that your feelings are forming a pattern, and you may even be aware and understand what the pattern is, you're still going to have a hard time trusting yourself because, again, you spent so many years gaslighting yourself. And so, as a result, it's hard to believe that what you feel is actually true. The best way to start believing what you feel is actually true is, again, if the pattern is there, the pattern is there. If the pattern has been there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, I'm pretty sure the pattern is not just suddenly going to vanish. The pattern is telling you that you feel something about something and you need to figure out what to do about it. Now, what to do about it, as I always say, could be many things. Not to mention, once you do notice that you have a pattern about your feelings, that your feelings lay out a pattern, the next thing you need to ask yourself is, now that I see that this feeling is consistently popping up, let's say, for example, every time I come out of a shower and I look at myself in the mirror as I dry myself, I get incredibly uncomfortable looking at myself in the mirror. This happens to me every time. Okay, that's a pattern. That's a pattern of this feeling of discomfort I feel in this context. The next question is, now what are these feelings are telling you about this experience? So yes, I feel uncomfortable. This is where journaling comes in incredibly handy, or working with a therapist, if you can, comes incredibly handy. Now you get a chance to go deeper and dig deeper and find out, okay, why is it that I feel uncomfortable? Be inquisitive about yourself. See again what comes up for you. Am I feeling uncomfortable because I'm insecure about my body? What is it about my body makes me feel insecure? This is again how you may find out how much of this is just body insecurity issue, how much of this is body issue related to gender dysphoria, two different things. Why do I feel the way I do? Is there a particular body part that is giving me discomfort, and why that is? Once you find out what's actually underlying the pattern, that's how you find out what issue you're grappling with. If it's an issue of gender dysphoria, then you have to figure out and ask yourself to what extent it potentially may be affecting your life. What do you feel or may need to do anything about it? It also could be that you may find out something else once you dig deeper into your feelings. But the mistake that I see people make is either take their feelings um, as an um, immediate factual thing. I feel this way, and this is a fact, without realizing that again, feelings are transient. But if there is a pattern, it's very interesting. We're more eager, let me put it this way, we're more eager to take as a fact things we feel spontaneously, momentarily, versus actually believing a pattern that is consistent. Because sometimes pattern is much more difficult to acknowledge and to accept. But this is how you can start trusting your feelings. Trusting your feelings is incredibly important. For a lot of you who were male assigned at birth, this is incredibly challenging. I've spoken about this before. Why is this so challenging for a lot of male assigned at birth who are not comfortable with their gender? Because you've been also consistently told, a lot of you at least, through your upbringing and socializing, that as a man, as a boy, don't express your feelings. Don't cry. Stuff it. Put it away. In other words, you've been communicated through our cultures, through upbringing, at least a lot of you have, that you're not supposed to be in touch with your emotions. Emotions or feelings are for the girls, right? Emotions or feelings are for the women. And if you have emotions and feelings, you're sissy. You're not manly enough. And so already you have internal habituated mechanism of turning away from your feelings because you've been told that you're not supposed to feel them. And so it takes a lot of unlearning for any male assigned at birth, whether they're struggling with gender issues or not. Cis guys, cis men have to do a ton of learning in our society today to realize that a healthy balance of acknowledging and being in touch with your feeling, healthy balance to being in touch with your feeling function is equally as important as thinking and analytical function. And so it takes a lot of learning to do that. On top of that, if you're struggling with gender issues, it's going to be that much more difficult because you've been told to disregard the way you feel. You've been told to dismiss it. And in this case, you cannot, unfortunately, you can't dismiss it because feelings are important and they are popping up again and again and again. Everything about um, our human design tends to operate in a sense of oppressing patterns. Those patterns oftentimes become very pressing when there's things within ourselves that are not in balance, that are not in alignment, right? Goes for anything else in your lives. For my viewers, of course, it happens to be with gender. For a lot of other people, there's so many things that are not in balance in their life. And there's always a way that our bodies, our hearts, our minds try to communicate to us by laying out a pattern. Analogy I always make in regards to food and weight loss. If you are indulging in too much food and your body starts to put on weight, your body is going to start to communicate to you by how you feel about yourself that is going to consistently lay out a pattern of feeling uncomfortable, heavy, um, having a hard time in going up the stairs or getting down on the ground and playing with your kids. That pattern of communication is your body ringing a doorbell and saying, hey, there's something here that needs to be addressed and you're not addressing it. In all of your cases, those consistent feelings of discomfort that you may experience, or feelings of not even discomfort. Why is it when I look at particular gender, I get all excited and tingly and butterflies inside every single time? All of those things are trying to tell you something. You need to start paying attention to those things because that's how it's almost like unraveling um, of a thread. That's how that thread is going to lead you to your most authentic self. And my goodness, today in today's world, we all definitely need to strive to be as authentic and as closer to ourselves as we can be. So pay attention to your feelings And most importantly, not just any feelings, but a pattern that they lay out for you. Comment below, let me know if you still struggle with trusting your feelings. If you're constantly questioning your feelings, are you starting to notice pattern? Can you comment below what that pattern is? Can you also share perhaps why, even though you recognize there is a pattern, you're still mistrusting it? Comment below, let me know. Love reading all of your comments, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.